Right now, why don't we talk about why do so many people suffer from anxiety?
It's a good question. And, the fight or flight response, which is really what happens, our body goes into panic or anxiety. The fact is, it's a primitive response that was designed to help us out of dangerous situations so that, thousands of years ago, if a bear is chasing you in the woods and you need to get away from the bear, you need to make sure that your heart rate increases. You need to make sure that all the blood flow from your digestive system, your urinary tract, your immune system, all of the blood flow and energy goes towards your muscles so that you can run away from the bear. Now, theoretically, when you got into the cave, it should calm down very, very quickly. In fact, there's a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it talks all about the fact that zebras fight or flight, it turns off like this, and it's why they don't get stressed out. But now, thousands of years later, our fight or flight response is being triggered by not by a bear chasing us necessarily. It could be by our boss yelling at us, by getting into a fight with a friend, by having emotional issues at work or with relationships. And the idea is we're always in this fight or flight. And not only that, I talk about in the book, it can almost become addictive. In other words, your brain
Mhm.
starts producing thoughts. Those thoughts produce chemicals. The chemicals, the stress chemicals, end up producing anxiety, whether that's adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, all the stress hormones. And now all of a sudden you get this rush when you're anxious. And so your body gets used to producing the thoughts that produce the chemicals and then produce that emotional response. And over time and with repetition, essentially we practice anxiety. We don't realize it, but we're practicing it day after day after day, the same patterns, the same thoughts. And our body gets really, really good at producing the chemicals of stress. And so good that sometimes the body craves that chemical of stress and it's going to look for things to worry about. And so I'm sure most of your audience can relate to the fact that they might feel like they've got this huge problem. They're anxious about it. They do everything in their power to get rid of it. And as soon as it's gone, their brain finds something else to worry about because it's a habit. It's a neurological pattern that the brain is always searching how to protect you, how to save you. And it's looking for danger in your environment. And so the idea is we have to break that pattern. We have to create new neurological patterns and set a new neurological state so that we're not always getting used to practicing anxiety. So I talk about in my course, practicing the emotions of your future, practicing the emotions of your dream life, because the more you practice the emotions you want to feel, the more familiar they become to you, the more your body gets used to producing the happy chemicals, like the endorphins and the serotonins and the happy chemicals that we have in our body, oxytocin and so forth. And so now we get used to producing those. And so really it's this habit forming worry that we engage in. And that's what I've dealt with my whole life. And so by able to dive into this work, it's been able to start training me to start having a new set point rather than automatically waking up in the morning and that set point is automatically for stress.
I was talking to a client the other day, and they admitted that they go to bed worried if they were going to wake up feeling good or bad. And I said,
Right,
well, that's interesting. I go to bed knowing that tomorrow's going to be an awesome day.
right.
And it's just the way that you set it up in your brain and the way you train your brain to, you have to be proactive in changing those thoughts. And Joe Dispenza talks about how 97% of your thoughts are the same as they were yesterday unless you
Right.
change them.